Good morning. Welcome to ASMR with the bear. First off, welcome to 2015. I hope you all had a safe and pleasant New Year's Eve. I certainly did. Tonight, I thought we would turn out the lights, draw the curtains, lock the doors, and tell ghost stories in the dark. Now, who doesn't like a good ghost story? First, let's see a show of hands. Who believes in ghosts? I do. I've never seen a ghost. I've never experienced a ghost. But I hope sometime before I buy the farm, I do. I would say the closest I've ever come to an occult experience was years ago when I was living in Riverside, California. I was living in this big old 3-story, 100-year-old Victorian home that had been converted into apartments. And I lived on the second floor, and my friend Jim lived on the first floor. And oddly enough, this happened on Christmas Eve of all days of the year. Back then, I was fascinated by the occult and by Satan. No, I didn't worship him. I never have, and I never will. But anyway, back then, I was young and dumb. And a friend of mine gave me this book called the Necronomicon, which is a book of spells and incantations to raise Satan. Well, I was foolhardy enough to read it, and when he gave me the book, he warned me. He said, "Be careful when you're reading this book." He said, "Strange things have happened to me since I've been reading it." Well, I just laughed it off and didn't pay any attention to it. Then on Christmas Eve, I spent the evening with friends, and I returned home about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And everybody in the house, all the apartments were vacant. People had all gone away for the holidays, except my friend Jim. And when I got home, he came up to my apartment and he said, "I'm glad you're back." He said, "Strange things have been happening here all night long. You know, the lights have gone on and off by themselves. The water has gone on and off by itself. The doors have opened. The gas stove has gone on and off by itself." And of course, I just thought, whatever you've been smoking, I want some. Anyway, so then I just kind of giggled and I said, "Well, gee, maybe it's this book I'm reading." And I told him about it. Well, at the time, the guy he was dating's father was a priest or a minister or some member of the clergy. So he called this guy's father and told him what had been happening in the house and about the book. Well, this guy's father told him to get out of that house now. Don't pack, just leave. Well, he did. And I was suddenly all alone in this 100-year-old 3-story Victorian home. And I didn't think anything of it, so I went up to my apartment and I started to watch TV. And I have never in my life, before then or since then, experienced such a bone-chilling cold. There was something in that room with me, something evil, and it scared the shit out of me. I opened the window and I flung that book out into the yard, and then I left for the night and went and stayed with friends. Well, the next day, Jim and I returned to the house, and we went up the stairs into the 3rd floor attic, and we took a Bible and we read some passages from the Bible, and we left the Bible laying open on the floor. Well, the next day, we went back up into the attic. The Bible was torn to shreds. Every box in that attic had been ripped open, and everything was strewn from one end of the attic to the other. Well, needless to say, we were both a little freaked out. Jim moved out that same day, just packed up and left. I lived there another year or so, and I never experienced anything like that again. But I did have a psychic friend who refused to go anywhere near the door that led to the stairs that led to the attic, because she said, and I quote, "There's something evil up there." Ooh. Well, anyway, that's my one and only experience with the occult or ghosts. I would love to go on a ghost hunt. I love going to haunted houses, and yet I've never seen anything. There is a hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. It's about 45 minutes from here, and it's called the Crescent Hotel, and it's allegedly haunted. I have taken pictures inside the Crescent Hotel that had the orbs floating through the picture. Whether that's a ghost or not, I don't know. But on to the story. This one is called Axe Murder Hollow. Susan and Ned were driving through a wooded, empty section of highway. Lightning flashed, thunder roared. The sky went dark in the torrential downpour. "We'd better stop," said Susan. Ned nodded his head in agreement. He stepped on the brake, and suddenly the car started to slide on the slick pavement. They plunged off the road and slid to a halt at the bottom of a ravine. Pale and shaking, Ned quickly turned to check to see if Susan was all right. When she nodded, Ted relaxed and looked through the rain-soaked windows. "I'm going to see how bad it is," he told Susan, and went out into the storm. She saw his blurry figure in the headlights, walking around the front of the car. A moment later, he jumped in beside her, soaking wet. "The car's not badly damaged, but we're stuck wheels deep in mud," he said. "I'm going to have to go for help." Susan swallowed nervously. There would be no quick rescue here. He told her to turn off the headlights and lock the doors until he returned. Axe Murder Hollow. Although Ned hadn't said the name out loud, they both knew what he had been thinking when he told her to lock the car. This was the place where a man had once taken an axe and hacked his wife to death in a jealous rage over an alleged affair. Supposedly, the axe-wielding spirit of the husband continued to haunt this section of the road. Outside the car, Susan heard a shriek, a loud thump, and a strange gurgling noise, but she couldn't see anything in the darkness. Frightened, she sank down into her seat. She sat in silence for a while. Then she noticed another sound. It was a soft sound, like something being blown by the wind. Suddenly, the car was illuminated by a bright light. An official-sounding voice told her to get out of the car. Ned must have found a police officer. Susan unlocked the door and stepped out of the car. As her eyes adjusted to the bright light, she saw it. Hanging by his feet from the tree next to the car was the dead body of Ned. His bloody throat had been cut so deeply that he was nearly decapitated. The wind swung his corpse back and forth so that it thumped against the tree. Bump, bump, bump. Susan screamed and ran toward the voice of the light. As she drew close, she realized the light was not coming from a flashlight. Standing there was a glowing figure of a man with a smile on his face and a large, solid, and definitely real axe in his hands. She backed away from the glowing figure until she bumped into the car. Playing around behind my back. When my back was turned, the ghost whispered, stroking the sharp blade of the axe with his fingers. "You've been very naughty." The last thing she saw was the glint of the axe blade in the eerie, incandescent light. That one was pretty good. Let's see what else we can find to entertain ourselves with. This one is called Bear Lake Monster. If you travel to Bear Lake in Utah on a quiet day, you just might catch a glimpse of the Bear Lake Monster. The monster looks like a huge brown snake and is nearly 90 feet long. It has ears that stick out from the side of its shiny head and a mouth big enough to eat a man. According to some, it has small legs and it kind of scurries when it ventures out onto the land. But in the water, watch out. It can swim faster than a horse can gallop, makes a mile a minute on a good day. Sometimes the monster likes to sneak up on unwary swimmers and blow water at them. The ones it doesn't carry off to eat, that is. A feller I heard about spotted the monster early one evening as he was walking along the lake. He tried to shoot it with his rifle. The man was a crack shot, but none of his bullets touched that monster. It scared the hell out of him, and he hightailed it home faster than you could say Jack Robinson. Left his rifle behind and claimed the monster ate it. Sometimes when the monster has been quiet for a while, people start saying it's gone for good. Some folks even dredge up that old tale that says how Pecos Bill heard about the Bear Lake Monster and bet some cowpokes that he could wrestle that monster until it said uncle. According to them folks, the fight lasted for days and created a hurricane around Bear Lake. Bill flung that there monster over his shoulder and it flew so far it went plumb across the world and landed in Loch Ness, where it lives to this day. Of course, we know better than that. The Bear Lake Monster is just hibernating. Keep your eyes open at dusk, and maybe you'll see it come out to feed. Just be careful swimming in the lake, or you might be its next meal. Let's see what else we can find, shall we? Well, here's one. Everybody's heard of Bloody Mary. Don't go stand in front of a darkened mirror and say her name 3 times. Unless you're brave. Let's see here. Okay, my tablet's being temperamental. Let's see what I can find. It's not doing what I want it to do. Okay, there we go. There's Mary. Go ahead. Call her name out. She lived deep in the forest in a tiny cottage and sold herbal remedies for a living. Folks living in the town nearby called her Bloody Mary. And it was said she was a witch. None dared cross the old crone for fear that their cows would go dry, their food stores would rot away before winter, their children would take sick of the fever, or any number of terrible things that an angry witch could do to her neighbors. Then, one by one, little girls in the village began to disappear. No one could find out where they had gone. Grief-stricken families searched the woods, the local buildings, and all the houses and barns, but there was no sign of the missing girls. A few brave souls even went to Bloody Mary's home in the woods to see if the witch had taken the girls, but she denied any knowledge of their disappearances. Still, it was noted that her haggard appearance had changed. She looked younger, more attractive. The neighbors were suspicious, but they could find no proof the witch had taken their young ones. Then came that night when the daughter of the miller rose from her bed and walked outside, following an enchanted sound no one else could hear. The miller's wife had a toothache and was sitting up in the kitchen, treating the tooth with an herbal remedy when her daughter left the house. She screamed for her husband and followed the girl out the door. The miller came running in his nightshirt. Together they tried to restrain the girl, but she kept breaking away from them and heading out of town. The desperate cries of the millers and his wife woke the neighbors. They came to assist the frantic couple. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed farmer gave a shout and pointed towards a strange light at the end of the woods. A few townsmen followed him out into the field and saw Bloody Mary standing beside a large oak tree, holding a magic wand that was pointed towards the miller's house. She was glowing with an unearthly light as she set her evil spell upon the miller's daughter. The townsmen grabbed their guns and their pitchforks and ran toward the witch. When she heard the commotion, Bloody Mary broke off her spell and fled back into the woods. The far-sighted farmer had loaded his gun with silver bullets in case the witch ever came after his daughter. Now he took aim and shot at her. The bullet hit Bloody Mary in the hip, and she fell to the ground. The angry townsmen leapt upon her and carried her back into the field, where they built a huge bonfire and burned her at the stake. As she burned, Bloody Mary screamed a curse at the villagers. If anyone mentioned her name aloud before a mirror, she would send her spirit to seek revenge upon them for her terrible death. When she was dead, the villagers went to the house in the woods and found the unmarked graves of the little girls the evil witch had murdered. She had used their blood to make her young again. From that day to this, anyone foolish enough to chant Bloody Mary's name 3 times before a darkened mirror will summon the vengeful spirit of the witch. It is said that she will tear their bodies to pieces and rip their souls from their mutilated bodies. The souls of these unfortunate ones will burn in torment as Bloody Mary once was burned, and they will be trapped forever in the mirror. So have any of you ever tried it? I have. Obviously it's a folklore. Because, fortunately, nothing happened. Anyway. I think we'll call it a night for this evening. And let you all tuck into your beds nice and warm, and may you have pleasant dreams. Good night.